the quiet embrace of Tuckerman, a small picturesque town in Arkansas, the day dawned like any other. The sun cast its golden glow over the sleepy streets, painting the town in a serene light. Yet beneath this calm surface, a ripple of unease was about to disturb the peace. Sidney Sutherland, a young, vibrant soul, set out for her routine jog. The streets, familiar and comforting, beckoned her with the promise of a refreshing start to her day. Little did anyone know, this morning jog would be anything but ordinary. With each stride, Sidney's thoughts drifted to the upcoming celebrations of her 25th birthday. Her heart was light, her spirit unburdened by the worries of life. She moved with the grace and ease of someone who loved, and was loved by life itself. However, as the clock hands inched forward, an unsettling silence began to envelop the town. Sidney, who should have been making her way back home, was nowhere to be seen. The paths she tread, once filled with her lively presence, now lay empty, as if holding their breath, awaiting her return. In Sidney's absence, a sense of dread began to seep into the hearts of those who knew her. This was not like her. She was always punctual, always reliable. As minutes turned into hours, her family's worry turned into a frantic panic. Tuckerman, a town where everyone knew everyone, suddenly seemed vast and unknowable. The streets that once echoed with familiarity now whispered secrets of a tale untold. Sidney had vanished, leaving behind a trail of questions and a town shrouded in mystery. In Tuckerman, the tranquility was broken, leading to a story that captured the hearts of the residents. It was a beginning that would reveal the darkest corners of human nature and test a community pushed to its limits. The sun set on Tuckerman that day, not just on the horizon, but also on the innocence it once cradled. The night that followed was restless, filled with the murmurs of a looming storm, a prelude to the turbulent times ahead. The story of Sidney Sutherland was not just one of sudden disappearance. It was a tapestry woven with threads of dreams, aspirations, and the warmth of a close-knit community. Born on a crisp autumn day in 1995, Sidney's arrival brought joy to the small town of Tuckerman, Arkansas. The Sutherlands were a family deeply rooted in the town's fabric, known for their kindness and community spirit. As Sidney grew, so did her vibrant personality. Her laughter was a familiar melody in the corridors of Tuckerman High. Where she excelled in her studies, her eyes always alight with curiosity and ambition. Teachers often spoke of her with a mix of pride and affection, foreseeing a bright future for the girl who seemed to hold the world in her palm. Her two brothers, protective yet playful, were her constant companions in childhood adventures. They roamed the fields and forests around their home, building forts and chasing dreams under the vast Arkansas sky. Their home was a haven of love, where each night stories and laughter were shared around the dinner table. Upon graduating, Sidney's path took a turn towards her lifelong passion, medicine. Her heart, as nurturing as it was brave, yearned to heal and to help. The University of Arkansas welcomed her with open arms, and she dove into her studies with the same fervor that had always driven her. In college, Sidney's life was a whirlwind of textbooks, clinical rotations, and the budding of lifelong friendships. Her dedication was unwavering, her ambition fueled by the desire to make a difference in the world. And as she stepped into the role of a licensed nurse, the pride of Tuckerman swelled. Sidney's work at the Newport Medical Center was not just a job, it was a calling. She treated each patient with a tenderness that went beyond duty, her presence a balm to those in need. Her colleagues admired her not just for her skills, but for the genuine compassion that she brought to every shift. Yet, amidst the hustle of her career, Sidney never lost touch with her roots. Her bond with her family remained unbreakable, her visits home a source of joy and rejuvenation. Tuckerman, with its familiar streets and friendly faces, always welcomed her back with open arms. In this small town, where every milestone was celebrated by all, Sidney's life was a story everyone had watched unfold, from a bright-eyed child to a woman of substance and kindness. Little did they know that the next chapter of her story would be one of haunting absence, leaving a void that echoed through the heart of Tuckerman. As the sun rose on a fateful August day in 2020, Tuckerman, Arkansas, remained blissfully unaware of the tragedy that was about to unfold. Sidney Sutherland, the town's beloved daughter, who had blossomed into a caring nurse and a beacon of hope for many, had plans that shimmered with the simple joys of life. She was eagerly anticipating her 25th birthday, a milestone she planned to celebrate with the same zest with which she lived every day. The summer of 2020 was unlike any other. The world outside Tuckerman was grappling with uncertainties and challenges, but within this small community, life moved at its own steady pace. Sidney, ever the optimist, saw this as a time to reconnect with her roots, to cherish the moments with her family and loved ones. Her relationship with Alex, her boyfriend of 4 years, was a testament to her belief in love and companionship. Their bond, forged through shared dreams and mutual respect, was a familiar tale in Tuckerman. Together, they built a life filled with shared goals, laughter, and the promise of a future bright with possibilities. Sidney's connection with her family was a deep and nurturing one. The Sutherland home was a place where love was spoken in every gesture, every shared meal, every moment of togetherness. Her parents, pillars of strength and affection, instilled in her the values of kindness and dedication. The day Sidney disappeared was marked by an air of cheerfulness and normalcy. She visited her mother, leaving behind an echo of her laughter and plans for the evening. The mention of her going for a jog, a routine as familiar as the sunrise, raised no alarms. It was a part of the rhythm of her life, a moment for herself amidst the demands of her caring profession. As the evening approached, the absence of her return started to cast a shadow over the day. The usual punctuality that defined Sidney's life suddenly gave way to a silence that was loud with worry. Alex's call to her mother, expressing concern over Sidney's absence, was the first note of alarm. In a town where every road was known, every path familiar, Sidney's disappearance was a mystery that seemed impossible. The streets that had watched her grow, the trails where she had left her footprints countless times, now held no trace of her. She had vanished, leaving behind a wake of unanswered questions and a growing sense of dread. This was the beginning of an unfolding tragedy, a chapter in Tuckerman's history that would be marked by fear, sorrow, and the relentless search for truth. The town that had always been a haven of safety and community was now the backdrop of a mystery that touched every heart with a chill of apprehension. The realization of Sidney Sutherland's disappearance sent shockwaves through the heart of Tuckerman. The town, usually buzzing with the mundane routines of daily life, was now gripped by a sense of urgency and concern. Sidney, the girl they had seen grow up, the young woman who had dedicated her life to caring for others, had vanished into thin air. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Arkansas landscape, the community of Tuckerman rallied together. It was a collective response, a surge of solidarity that united the town in a singular mission: to find Sidney. The news spread like wildfire, igniting a sense of purpose in every resident. People from all walks of life, some who knew Sidney personally and others who merely knew of her, came forward. The local police department, often dealing with routine small-town matters, found itself at the center of an unprecedented search operation. The involvement of the FBI added a layer of gravity to the situation. This was no longer a local issue. It had escalated into a matter of national concern. The quiet streets of Tuckerman were now lined with police cars and FBI agents, a sight as surreal as it was unsettling. Sidney's family, once the picture of happiness and togetherness, was now a portrait of despair and determination. Her mother, a beacon of strength, coordinated with the authorities, her father's silent resolve a pillar for the family. Her brothers, always her protectors, now faced the unimaginable task of searching for their missing sister. The community's efforts were tireless. Volunteers organized search parties, combing through the fields and woods that Sidney may have passed during her jog. Flyers with her smiling face were distributed, her description broadcasted across local media. Every resident became a pair of eyes, every vehicle a tool in the search. In the midst of this, the haunting question lingered. If Sidney had been a victim of an attack, could the perpetrator be among them? This thought sent a shiver through the town. Tuckerman, a place where doors were often left unlocked and neighbors were trusted, was now clouded with suspicion and fear. The night turned into a marathon of search and hope. Lights shone in the darkness as people scoured the town, calling out Sidney's name, praying for a sign. The unity of Tuckerman's residents, their unwavering commitment to finding one of their own, was a testament to the strength of this close-knit community. But as the hours passed with no sign of Sidney, hope began to wane, replaced by a growing sense of dread. The town that had never known such turmoil was now at the heart of a mystery, a story that was unfolding with each passing moment, each unanswered question. In the fabric of Tuckerman's history, Sidney Sutherland was a golden thread. Her life story, up until the day of her disappearance, was interwoven with the town's own narrative, a tale of community, aspiration, and the warmth of a small town's embrace. Born into the embrace of a September day in 1995, Sidney's presence in Tuckerman was like a gentle wave that touched every shore. The Sutherlands, a family synonymous with kindness and involvement in the community, celebrated their daughter's arrival with joy and pride that resonated throughout the town. Growing up, Sidney's footsteps echoed along the streets and in the hearts of those she met. Her childhood was a picturesque tapestry of innocence and exploration. In the company of her two brothers, she turned the fields and forests of Arkansas into wonderlands of adventure and imagination. Sidney's journey through the halls of Tuckerman High was marked by a trail of achievements and friendships. Her academic excellence was not just a source of personal pride, but a shared joy for her teachers and classmates who saw in her a beacon of potential and hope. After high school, her path led her to the noble field of medicine, aligning with her innate desire to heal and help. The University of Arkansas embraced her, nurturing her aspirations. As she delved into the world of medicine, her commitment and passion only grew, shaping her into a caregiver whose touch went beyond mere treatment. Her transition into a dedicated nurse at the Newport Medical Center was a proud moment for Tuckerman. Sidney's compassion and professionalism in her role were a reflection of the values instilled in her from a young age. She was not just a nurse. She was a guardian angel for those under her care. Yet, despite the demands of her career, Sidney remained firmly rooted in the soil of her hometown. Her bond with her family was an unbreakable chain of love and respect. Each visit home was a celebration, a reaffirmation of the ties that bound her to Tuckerman. This close-knit fabric of life, woven with threads of memories, dreams, and shared experiences, was torn apart the day Sidney vanished. The girl who was a part of Tuckerman's soul, the woman who represented its best values, had disappeared, leaving behind a void filled with fear, uncertainty, and a desperate hope for answers. As twilight descended upon Tuckerman, the town was enveloped in a palpable tension. Sidney Sutherland, a beacon of hope and kindness, had vanished, and with her disappearance, a sense of urgency gripped the hearts of the townsfolk. The evening air, usually filled with the gentle sounds of nature, now echoed with the calls of her name, as search parties calmed the area. Alex, Sidney's boyfriend, felt a pang of dread with each passing moment. His calls to her had gone unanswered, a stark contrast to their usual routine of constant communication. The realization that something was terribly wrong set in, and he quickly alerted her family and the authorities. The Sutherland home, once a haven of warmth and laughter, was now a hub of frantic activity. Sidney's parents, faces etched with worry, coordinated with the local police, clinging to every shred of hope. Her brothers, who had always been her playmates and protectors, now faced the unimaginable task of searching for their missing sister. The town's police force, usually dealing with mundane small-town affairs, found themselves leading a search operation of unprecedented scale. The involvement of the FBI underscored the seriousness of the situation, turning the quiet town into a hive of activity. In Tuckerman, where everyone knew each other's names and stories, The possibility of an abduction was a chilling thought. The fear that the perpetrator could be among them cast a shadow of suspicion and unease. The streets, once safe and welcoming, now seemed ominous and fraught with hidden dangers. The community's response was remarkable. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers joined the search efforts. They scoured the usual jogging routes Sidney took, delving into the woods and fields, calling out her name, hoping for a response. The town's unity in the face of adversity was a testament to the bonds that held Tuckerman together. Flyers with Sidney's smiling face were distributed, her description echoing across local media channels. The town, lit by the glow of flashlights and police lights, continued its search well into the night. Every resident, every resource, was mobilized in the hope of finding Sidney. As the night deepened, so did the sense of despair. The lack of clues, the absence of any sign of Sidney, weighed heavily on the hearts of the searchers. Tuckerman, once a place where bad things seemed impossible, was now facing a harsh reality. The search for Sidney Sutherland became not just a mission to find a missing person, but a collective outpouring of a community's love and concern. It was a race against time, driven by the hope that she would be found safe, and a determination that no stone would be left unturned in the quest to bring her home. The dawn of the following day in Tuckerman brought no relief to the heavy hearts of the townspeople. The sun rose, casting its light over the fields and streets that had been tirelessly searched through the night, but Sidney Sutherland remained missing. The town, once a picture of tranquility, was now a landscape of worry and unending questions. As the search resumed with the first light, a sense of urgency permeated the air. The police, FBI agents, and volunteers, their faces drawn with fatigue, spread out across the town and its outskirts. The area was combed with a fine-tooth comb. Every possible route Sidney might have taken, every nook and cranny in the woods and fields, scrutinized. Amidst the relentless search, a glimmer of hope emerged in the form of a crucial clue. A courier driver, during his routine deliveries, recalled seeing a figure jogging along a quiet road on the outskirts of Tuckerman. His description matched Sidney's appearance, and his account provided a new direction for the search efforts. This revelation breathed new life into the weary search teams. The route mentioned by the courier became the new focus, with teams meticulously tracing Sidney's potential path. The possibility that she might have ventured further than her usual jogging trails opened up new areas to explore. Meanwhile, at the Newport Medical Center, Sidney's colleagues grappled with disbelief and concern. The hospital corridors, where she was known for her bright smile and compassionate care, were now filled with hushed conversations and silent prayers for her safe return. Back in Tuckerman, the community's resolve only strengthened. The town, united in its concern for one of its own, showed a remarkable spirit of solidarity. Neighbors, friends, and strangers alike, fueled by a mix of anxiety and hope, continued their tireless search. As the day progressed, the clue led the searchers to a field near the road where Sidney was last seen. It was here that the first tangible piece of evidence was discovered. A smartwatch, lying abandoned in the grass, a silent witness to the events that had unfolded. This discovery was a breakthrough, a tangible link to Sidney, and it propelled the investigation forward with renewed vigor. The field and its surroundings became the epicenter of the search. Investigators, accompanied by search dogs, scoured the area, looking for any additional clues that could lead them to Sidney. The smartwatch, a modern lifeline now turned into a beacon of hope, was carefully collected for examination. The discovery of Sidney Sutherland's smartwatch in a secluded field marked a turning point in the investigation. The once quiet town of Tuckerman, Arkansas, was now the focal point of a mystery that seemed to deepen with each passing hour. The smartwatch, a piece of modern technology, had become a critical piece in a puzzle that everyone was desperate to solve. As forensic experts examined the smartwatch for any data that could shed light on Sidney's movements, the town buzzed with a mix of hope and anxiety. This small device, usually tracking health and fitness, might now hold the key to unlocking the questions surrounding her disappearance. Meanwhile, A more chilling discovery was made in a nearby barn. Hidden amidst the shadows, broken and discarded, were Sidney's sunglasses. This find was more than just an object. It was a harbinger of darker possibilities. The once benign landscape of Tuckerman was revealing secrets that nobody wanted to face. The police and FBI intensified their efforts, realizing that they were potentially dealing with an abduction. The thought sent a shiver through the community. In a town where everyone knew each other, the idea that someone could harm one of their own was unfathomable. The investigation began to take on a new direction. Every resident of Tuckerman became a potential witness. The local police, supported by the FBI, started a thorough door-to-door inquiry. Every lead, no matter how small, was followed up. The town, once a haven of peace and familiarity, was now under a microscope. As the search continued, Sidney's family held on to hope, despite the growing dread. Her parents, who had always been the backbone of their family, found themselves relying on the support of the community. The Sutherland home, a place that had once resonated with laughter and love, was now filled with quiet determination and the unspoken fear of the unknown. In the midst of this turmoil, the community of Tuckerman stood strong. Volunteers continued to search, refusing to give up hope. Candlelight vigils were held, and prayers were offered, reflecting the town's unity and collective hope for Sidney's safe return. But as days turned into weeks, the mystery of Sidney Sutherland's disappearance began to weigh heavily on the town. The initial surge of activity and hope was giving way to a somber realization that the answers they sought might not bring the closure they desired. As the investigation into Sidney Sutherland's disappearance deepened, Tuckerman found itself grappling with a reality it had never imagined. The broken sunglasses and the abandoned smartwatch had pointed to a sinister possibility, but it was the emergence of a suspect that shook the town to its core. Quake Lewellyn, a 28-year-old local farmer, known to many in Tuckerman, became a focal point of the investigation. His late revelation of having seen Sidney on the day she disappeared raised suspicions. A town that once thrived on trust and familiarity now looked at one of its own with doubt and apprehension. Lewellyn, a man whose family was respected in the community and known for their contribution to local agriculture, was initially among the volunteers in the search for Sidney. His delayed admission of encountering Sidney on the day she vanished was puzzling. Why had he not come forward sooner? This question lingered in the minds of the townspeople and the investigators. The police, methodical in their approach, began to unravel Lewellyn's movements on the day of Sidney's disappearance. His presence in the area where Sidney was last seen, his delayed report, and his seemingly untroubled participation in the search raised red flags. The community watched in disbelief as one of their own became the subject of suspicion. As the investigators dug deeper, they uncovered more about Lewellyn. He was a familiar face in Tuckerman, someone who had grown up in the area, attended the same schools, and was part of the community's daily life. The revelation that he could be linked to something so heinous was a bitter pill for Tuckerman to swallow. The scrutiny on Lewellyn intensified. The police executed search warrants, looking for any evidence that could connect him to Sidney's disappearance. The investigation, once a broad search for a missing person, had narrowed down to a focused probe into one man's actions. In the midst of this, Sidney's family and the community wrestled with a mix of emotions. The hope for Sidney's safe return was now tinged with anger and betrayal. How could someone from their midst be involved in such a dreadful act? The town's innocence was being eroded by the harsh tides of reality. Lewellyn's emergence as a suspect was a turning point in the investigation. It was a chapter filled with shock, disbelief, and the painful acknowledgement that evil can lurk in the most familiar places. Tuckerman, a town once bound by trust and camaraderie, was now facing its darkest hour as the truth behind Sidney's disappearance began to unravel in the most unexpected of ways. The case of Sidney Sutherland, a young and compassionate nurse from Tuckerman, Arkansas, is a tragic and unsettling story. In the summer of 2020, Sidney disappeared while out on her usual jogging route, sparking a massive search operation involving local police, the FBI, and the Tuckerman community. Despite hopes for a safe return, the investigation took a grim turn when Sidney's smartwatch and broken sunglasses were found in a field, suggesting foul play. The case deepened when Quake Lewellyn, a 28-year-old local farmer known in the community, emerged as a suspect. Lewellyn, who had participated in the search efforts, was later found to have been involved in Sidney's disappearance and murder. He had hit Sidney with his vehicle and then buried her in a remote field. This revelation shocked the close-knit community of Tuckerman, shattering its sense of trust and safety. Lewellyn was arrested and charged with the crime. His trial brought to light the details of the brutal act, leaving the community and Sidney's family grappling with grief and unanswered questions. The conviction of Lewellyn brought legal closure to the case, but the emotional impact lingered for Sidney's family and the Tuckerman community. Sidney's tragic story, marked by her kind-hearted nature and a life dedicated to helping others, left a profound impact on Tuckerman. It's a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the devastating effects of senseless violence. Sidney's memory continues to be honored by the town, symbolizing not only a life lost too soon, but also the enduring strength and unity of the community in the face of adversity.